Let Me In are producing Spring Awakening at St Mary's in Lichfield. It runs from the 7th to the 10th of August, and I have 4 of the cast with me now. We have Lucy, Helen, Chris and Joe. Hi gang!
Hello.
Right, where should we start? I think Chris, we have to start with you because you're quite involved in this company, aren't you?
Just a little bit, yeah. Myself and a man called Martin Pritchard kind of came up with the idea of Let Me In Productions around about a year ago now. Mainly kind of born out of a kind of passion for both of us and a kind of desire to do something a little bit different. We know there's a lot of kind of amateur dramatic groups around Lichfield, and we've all taken inspiration from them, taken most of the cast from them as well.
But people move between so many different groups and appear in so many shows.
That's it. So yeah, we decided we wanted to do something very different, something much more intimate. The capacity for this is only 120 people each night, which for quite an intense, full-on musical is going to be nice and intimate for everyone in the audience. So yeah, we wanted to do something very different. We wanted to bring in a lot of people we trust and that we know will embrace what we wanted to do, and Let Me In was born from that. So very, very excited.
Well, I mean, it's great to see a group coming together, and a youthful group. It has to be for this production because we're in Germany in the 19th century, 1890s, and it's really about adolescents discovering themselves, and that's kind of what you're doing with the getting into all the theatre with this, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think that the biggest thing for me is having an age-appropriate cast. The themes in the show are obviously very sensitive. We have a lot of mental abuse, kind of mental illness, sexual abuse. We have lots of different kind of subjects we want to be very sensitive about and make sure we do justice to. I know that with the cast we've got, we have a lot of people that are kind of just finishing school, so a lot of people that are experiencing the same issues as these characters in Spring Awakening. And the most important thing for me is that everything that they're experiencing in the 1890s is still very relevant to now, even though all of the problems that were there should really have been solved by now.
Yeah, and social media and the like seems to have made it a little bit worse, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And we are doing it traditionally set as it should be in the 1890s. However, obviously, when the characters go into song, it very much brings it into the modern kind of musical theatre world.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk more about the music very soon. Yeah. But first, let's meet some of the cast and find out about the parts that each of you play. Let's start then here with Lucy. Tell me a bit about who you are on the show.
So I play a girl called Marta Bessel, who is one of the girls in the village. She has a terrible relationship with her father and a very unhappy home life. As you've already said, it's not exactly a happy musical.
But even so, it is a musical of exploration, though, isn't it?
Yes, and definitely with the last number, which I think we might be performing later, it ends on a note of hope and a message that things can improve if we just embrace one another and talk to each other.
And spoilers out of the way there then, but how does your character interact with some of the group we have here?
With Helen's character, she's not really a part of the main group of girls, but she is mentioned multiple times. Marta is almost foreshadowing what's happened to Helen's character, but apart from that, the girls are just a relatively normal group of girls that hang out together.
Mm-hmm. So, tell us a bit more.
Yeah, so my character's called Ilse. She's supposedly, it doesn't definitely confirm, but hints with some of the songs. She had a bad relationship with her father as well, possibly abused in some way, and she's basically ran away from home and she now lives in an artist colony, and the only time she's really in the show properly is actually in Act 2. You only really get to know her then, and she comes across very blasé about life, a little bit like carefree, but actually you get the impression that when she's at the artist colony the same kind of things are happening there as well, so she hasn't really been able to move on from that. She's quite a sad character really. She puts on a happy face, but she's not very happy.
But that
really
makes it more of a challenge when you're trying to play that sort of part, because you've got a smile on your face, yes. So your situation is much better than hers.
Yes.
And to have that the happy but not happy look is quite, I thought, challenging.
Yes, I think I found that very difficult actually in rehearsals. There's lots of styles of numbers and in the scenes where you're not allowed to smile, which I do find quite difficult. The whole show is completely different to what I've done before. I'm normally very jazz hands musical, but it's made it more fun, and I've enjoyed the challenge, and I'm hoping that when everything comes together I'll be able to do Ilse justice, I'm hoping.
Fingers crossed. I'm sure you'll be absolutely fantastic. This lot have confidence in you, which is good. Right, I'm going to be rude and turn my back on you and move this end now. So, Joe, tell us a bit about your role.
So I'm playing Melchior Gabor. He is, the only way I can describe him is like an intelligent rebel. He sort of is the best at all his classes, like the best at school, but he sort of lacks care for all of them because he wants to search something like deeper in the meaning of like life. He feels that he's been boxed in by the community and that he doesn't know what he should know, so he reads as much as he can, and he sort of serves as this like massive intelligence throughout the show in telling all these characters all these things that you'd think he would have had to experience to know. So he talks about like intimate sex acts and all these sort of things, and he himself has never done any of them. He just reads them, and then he's like the main source of knowledge, which is really funny because he's like as clueless as everyone else.
At one point in the show, there's quite a very big scene whereby consent is given to something when somebody doesn't know what it is. They're probably signing up to there. So there's that, and then there's other areas of the show which at that time would have really pushed the boundaries talking about this sort of thing.
Yes.
I mean, what are your main characters' moments?
Well, Melchior, I'm not going to explain it in full, but Melchior has a certain relationship with another character called Wendler, and they sort of have this very strange relationship that's very like sexually orientated, but none of them really know what it actually is. So like there's moments where there's a lot of sexual tension, but they don't understand what that feeling is, so they're almost scared of it. And there's a scene at the end of Act 1, which I'm not going to say what it is, but something very quite big happens that neither of them really know what they're signing up for when they do it. They just know that they're kids and that they want to enjoy these impulses and not sort of hide them away. There's a line he says where it's like, does a mayor like ignore every like feeling it's telling them until they're given a marriage certificate? And I think that really sums up Melchior's sort of view on the world, because he's like, do we just ignore everything we're told because we're told to ignore it, or do we just sort of explore it and try and learn ourselves and then have to sort of live with the consequences?
And it was kind of thought of, 1890s in the UK, it was Victorian times.
Yeah.
Germany was going through the start of what was going to be an interesting time for them at that point, and the way in which their society changed was significant. But were they as prudish as the mid-20th century? Probably not in many ways. So there is probably an area of liberation around what these kids would have been experiencing that wouldn't have been frowned upon in the way it was maybe 40 years later.
I think the nice thing with Spring Awakening is it really shows the difference between the adult and the sort of like, not children, but sort of teenager mindset. Because the adults are very like closed door, don't talk about anything, you live by our rules are there. Very much like the rules have been set for years, so that's the rules we stay by. And the kids, they just want to break out, they want to learn more, but they're sort of restricted by where they are and what time period it is and what the adults are willing to tell them. Like in the first scene, Wendler asks how babies are made, and the mum's like, love. And she and that's literally and that's it. There's nothing else to it. Whereas we all know that that's not exactly how it goes down. And so a lot of problems arise because of that sort of thing and this misinformation that's said as like just the blanket truth.
I think a lot of what we've kind of played on is the theme of censorship. A lot of our marketing revolves around censorship, and the idea is that these children or students aren't given the tools that they need to survive in life. And there's an argument to be said. Richard's kind of played it in a way. Richard, our director, Richard Boynton, has played the show in a way that he's almost kind of showing how when the youth are censored like that and not given the tools they need to become adults, it can then backfire, and then it's almost the start of the generation, like you mentioned, of the early 20th century Germany, that could necessarily possibly been caused by this repression that they experience. So yeah, I think repression and censorship is a huge part of it. I mean, we've touched on kind of the sexual themes. It's not solely based around that. The idea of that is the fact that the show is real. It's for real people. It's for the fact that it highlights issues that everyone experiences. It's not gratuitous by any stretch of the imagination the way we're doing it. It's just highlighting things that people should be able to talk about and that aren't dirty little secrets. They are something that everyone goes through, and everyone should be given the tools to be able to kind of get by in life.
So tell us about your character then.
My character is Moritz Stiefel, probably the most difficult character I've ever played in my short time in theatre. I don't want to give away too much, but Moritz is someone who tends to be loved by a lot of people, in the sense that a lot of people can relate to him because he is stuck. He doesn't know where he fits in. He doesn't know how to act on these urges that he feels, and that leads to anxiety and eventually mental health issues that are explored within the show. The problem he experiences is that in today's world we can talk about that, but then we couldn't. and that manifests into something very, very dangerous for him.
And with all of this, as you mentioned, Richard is directing, and so the look of the show is important as well. So what can we expect costume-wise? Because we said it is in the 1890s.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. So we've gone for the aesthetic. We've gone for we're staging it in traverse actually. So we've got 3 stage spaces. We've got one at either end, and then we have the aisle, which is kind of where most of the action will take place. In terms of the aesthetics, we're very much going with the period aesthetics for the dialogue. The costumes are all period costumes. And then as soon as the music comes on, obviously lighting-wise and kind of in terms of the general performance of the characters, it thrusts it into the modern world.
So musically then, what would you say the feel of the music was? It's a bit of a rock
absolutely,
event, isn't it?
It's a rock kind of concert feel to it, very vibrant, very electric. It kind of has undertones of Rent and musicals of that kind of style in it. So if you like those things, you'll like the music in this. But then it also has that contrast, which is very, very beautiful, very much textured by strings as well. There's a lot of strings in it that bring out a lot of the melody. It's not just a rock and roll show, it has a lot of beauty in it. And the vocal arrangements are the hardest I've ever come across. So there's a lot of...
But a depth of characters that we talk about, Rent, but it's not really of the sound possibly, but the way in which the story is told is a very sort of different kind of tale. Okay, the girls have got quite some difficult areas to deal with in their characters' lives. There's challenges for the male characters as well, and it's probably much more about the interrelationships rather than the situation as much as anything else.
Yeah, it's an exploration of character. I mean, the best kind of way I describe it to people without giving away too much is an exploration of youth and rebellion and what happens if you're not equipped to deal with the sensations and the urges that you feel. And unfortunately, for some people, it can end up corrupting them or manifesting into something very dark and very upsetting, as it does in this.
Yeah. How do we hold the tickets then?
So the tickets are available on letmeinpresents.co.uk. They're also available on stmaryslichfield.co.uk. If you follow that link, the tickets are £18.50. They're available. It's Wednesday to Saturday show at 8 p.m. start.
Come along, see it.
Yeah.
Be challenged by it, but enjoy the talent that's going to be on stage. I'm sure it'll be fantastic. Break a leg. As we say, it is the 7th through to the 10th of August at St Mary's in the heart of Lichfield, and you can get your tickets, go along and enjoy a great cast exploring not only the story in the show, but also the wonderful world of acting and theatre as well. You will enjoy it. Thank you all for joining us.
Thanks so much.